I had just had a full day of watching top quality CSGO matches, bumping into pro players and battling people in the Mario Balloon arena outside. It was late at night in the party city, the sound of people and the smell of food everywhere. I hopped off the German tram system at the right stop, with help from a few people from ESL. We went straight through security and into a prestigious after-party event. What an adventure. I just fist bumped Get Right and then bumped into a fellow YouTuber, a YouTuber who had it all. And he asked me, how do you still enjoy it? The Hedonistic Treadmill comes for us all. All it takes is to grab 2 biscuits instead of just 1, and from that moment on, 2 becomes the new norm. All you have to do is to browse a new site before bed, and then it'll become part of your nightly routine to do so. Or how about that moment that you realise you could avoid a few minutes of work in some sneaky way, and after that, that too becomes habit, an entitlement. What is required to feel normal? And that's why you don't start smoking, kids. Bad habits add up and erode away at the good ones. It happens to us all, little by little, year by year. I honestly think it's the reason people look back so fondly at when they were younger, when they weren't so spoiled with the everyday luxuries and habits that they now surround themselves with. Back when they were excited to do the things which have since become the norm. What I'm about to say applies to myself, but I think you might be able to relate with it as well. All I have to do is to imagine younger Philip being put in my shoes right now, and I just know that he'd be amazed by all of the things that I have long since taken for granted. Even simple things like having a large bed, more than 4 cores in my PC, or as many nice pairs of socks as I can fit in my drawers. I feel I'm doing a disservice to my younger self by not appreciating my current situation more than I do. I try, I really do. But I am spoiled. Because the more I gain in life, the more I feel like that guy who's entered cheat codes into a game. Empty. Because the less you leave for the future, the emptier your existence feels. Struggling by with a rubbish phone was great for me. I enjoyed researching new ones, and it was amazing to finally get one with a battery life that lasted longer than 30 seconds. I guess, by extension, being a YouTuber with all the time in the world, it would do me a lot of good to get a horrible 9-to-5 job again. Because finally being able to walk out of those doors at the end of the day and returning to what I do now would feel great. But obviously I haven't done this because that would involve doing lots and lots of things I wouldn't want to do before I could enjoy it again, and the Hedonistic Treadmill makes that descent feel absolutely terrifying. I could go further still and argue that having a 9-to-5 job that you hate is one of the best things for you. It helps you to enjoy the weekends, and gives you the goal of retirement to look forward to. I haven't met anybody outside of the YouTubing scene who agrees with me here. The general belief here is that the enjoyment you get from outside a horrible job doesn't balance how horrible the job itself is. But oh well, that's just my 10 cents, having experienced both sides of the debate. Like I was saying, the Hedonistic Treadmill comes for us all. The higher your peaks, the harder it gets to enjoy yourself. Just look at what happens to drug addicts. Or when celebrities eventually go off the rails because their reward system is so broken they can't function anymore. I think YouTubing for a living puts you at risk of doing this as well. Because doing this, you're your own boss, and you inevitably start to prioritise short-term reward over long-term gain. Which sounds insane when you start out. It all seems so fun, you're happy to work every day for as many hours as you can stay awake. How could this possibly go wrong? I was always warned not to burn myself out, which I assumed meant working too hard, but I've never found that to be a problem. In fact, it's the opposite. If I work hard enough, it becomes a strange sort of thrill. I enjoy having to work under pressure, either with limited time or resources of some kind. It's like it with YouTubing, it's like it with game jams, it was like it at university or when working in McDonald's or in office jobs, which I hated. When you're 100% focused on your work, you forget about everything else. You become resourceful, imaginative, and upon reaching the deadline, you realise that you've achieved so much with so little. That has always been a rush for me. I think burning out is the opposite of this. It's where your productivity begins dropping per hour spent working. And then you compensate for this by working more hours, which in turn drops your productivity further. Eventually, your productivity is so low that you never switch off from the work. And that's when the problems start. It's when the time you spend not working is no longer fun, but is instead spent procrastinating. You burn yourself out, not through work, not through play, but through procrastination. Because those other things eventually take effort. And there's payoff to those things. But procrastination is the devil. It's the black hole you can never fill, not even with all the hours in your life. When you're doing YouTubing, the first time you notice this is when you finish work and instead of going off to play, you start thinking about the next bit of work you could be doing. But before you start with that, you take a small break. You put a pizza on, you browse the internet, or you just sit there for a few minutes. And so starts the bad habit of procrastination. Because it's the path of least resistance, you slowly replace work with procrastination, and fun with procrastination, because it's easier. It's when rendering a video goes from being a hassle to becoming an opportunity to relax. Or when setting up VR goes from being exciting to being a hassle that you'll just put off until later. A big moment for me was back in 2018. I've always woken up late, and in an attempt to improve my cycle, I moved my gaming sessions to the morning, and they felt great. I was excited to wake up every morning, and then after that gaming session had ended, I would jump into work with the same level of enthusiasm that I had when I first started out, all those years earlier. This morning high lasted for years, and greatly improved my day-night cycle, putting me more in line with a normal person's again. So why did it feel so great to game in the morning? How was this any different from gaming in the evening? Well, I can tell you, it's because I was eroding the good habit I had always had of working first and then playing later. And only when it's gone did I notice this. Slowly, I found myself gaming before and after work, and then the period in the middle when I would get work done was slowly being eroded away as well. This happened until all that was left was a day-long haze of gaming, working, gaming, distraction, procrastination, food, working, sleep. And it felt terrible. I was still getting my work done, I've always managed that, but at what cost? It was taking all day, and there was no reward or respite from it. I was still functioning, but only along the path of least resistance. That's hardly an existence. Gaming was no longer a treat, it was a distraction, and work was a punishment. And even procrastination eventually felt like a chore. Where is there to go then? I think that's as close to depression as I've ever been. It makes me wonder if today's problems with depression comes from having 24-hour access to an entertainment system in our hands. Maybe what people really need is boredom, which would at least drive them to do things again. So what did I do to combat this horrible state that I found myself in? I'm sorry to say, but I haven't found an easy fix. I guess I could do drugs. That would bring back a high of some sort, a reason to wake up in the morning and so on. I know you think I'm joking, but I think this is why so many celebrities and stuff end up going down that route, even though to you it looks as though they're throwing away a dream lifestyle by doing so. You don't have to worry about me though, I'm way too boring to go down that route. I have, instead, chosen to treat YouTube like a normal job. I spent all those years trying to escape that existence, but actually, it might be the most sustainable way to live. What you do is to force yourself to work, a good solid chunk of work. You can use a tomato timer to force yourself to get stuff done. I find that effective, and it helps to keep me under pressure, even if I still overshoot how long I think it's going to take to get things done. But what's also important is to set an end time every day. Don't let work drift on until you go to bed. Make sure there are a few hours at the end of the day where you do switch off. Even if you haven't got your work done, at some point you need to say, that's enough, and to do something else. Any frustration you have of not quite finishing the day's work can be reinvested into it tomorrow instead. It's probably a good thing. And at the end of this day, when the work is done, do something else. Whatever you do, don't procrastinate. Turn your phone off, unplug the internet if you have to. Just do something with that spare time of value. Juggle. Load up that Steam game that you bought but never got around to playing. Create routines, and eventually you'll look forward to them. So that's the sad reality of it all. You could get everything you ever wanted, but it will eventually become the norm, and you'll end up doing everything you can to escape it. In order to have a healthy lifestyle, especially as a YouTuber, celebrity, or drug addict, I suppose, you have to put boundaries up. You have to have a bit of your day for one thing and another bit for something else. You treat your profession like a job, and then you find something to do with the rest of your time. Now the scary thing for me is how long I enjoyed it all for. If I was on a high from YouTubing for so many years after quitting a job that I hated, surely it would take that long to get into good habits again. Is there the possibility that I'll never feel as happy again as when I first started it out with it all? Do I honestly think it's coincidence that the best month of my life happened to be the first one after I quit a job that I hated? It's not healthy to look at it like this. You take life one day at a time. You nurture good habits. Ideally, you want your actions today to be the perfect blend of exercise, work, diet and play that you can sustain forever. But any balance you do today that's better than yesterday is a victory. Of course, the better your routines get, the more appealing it is to break those rules again and to erode into the good habits that you've been nurturing. After all, what's the point in holding back if you never experience those joys again? But no, resist. As often as you can. A 9-to-5 job sounds like hell, but much like democracy, it might be the best of a bad bunch. That YouTuber who asked me how I still enjoyed it, he had it all. There wasn't a way I could see of making his life more enjoyable than it was in that moment, at that prestigious CSGO after party. So my advice to him, you enjoy it, but in moderation. You don't procrastinate. You set yourself goals to get done in the day and a time by which they need to be done by. Life can't all be fun and games. You have to earn it. And much like I said all those years ago, you can't have the ups without the downs. The hedonistic treadmill can work both ways. You can get into good new habits. You can get accustomed to a lower standard of living than you had yesterday. Second by second, it isn't even hard to do this. It's not like you're in searing pain the moment you try to better yourself. It's just mildly uncomfortable, compared with doing something you want to do, or procrastinating. You've just got to chip away at it, minute by minute, hour by hour. It's a marathon, but just focus on the next step and you'll get there. Life has a wonderful habit of balancing things out. If you try to have fun, it will make it harder to do so, but the reverse is also true. So if you're ever feeling sad or bored, then here's my advice to you. Stop trying to have fun. Do the opposite. Work. And make sure that time counts. No procrastination, no distractions. Give yourself less time than it'll take, and force yourself to be as productive as you can in that time. And even when you're not working, keep busy. Get stuff done and sacrifice short-term enjoyment for long-term satisfaction at every opportunity you get. Work yourself to the bone and give yourself as little reward as you can. And that, YouTubers, is how you have fun.